if you want to grow your audience, increase your engagement, and monetize in 2025, these 5 key strategies are what you're going to want to hear right now. Let's get into it. What if I told you that the secret to your video content is right beneath your nose? You just may not be seeing it yet. I'm Simona, founder of Volt Productions, and today we're covering 5 key aspects that you need to consider for your 2025 video strategy. Now, hear me out. I've been doing a lot of speaking so far in 2025 and towards the end of 2024 about video content. Our clients have shifted significantly over the last few years from audio only to video-based podcasts. And the people that we're working with today and the work that we're doing within the agency is very geared towards video first. So this is where we're going to start. My first step for you is going video first. Yes, even if you're a podcaster. And here's the thing. Not everyone is going to want to create a video-based podcast. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you must do it. But there's definitely a huge leg up when you choose to incorporate video into your overall podcast production strategy, content strategy, YouTube strategy. There's things like faceless marketing and all of that, and it absolutely does work for some people. But the truth of the matter is that video will constantly over and over and over again help you build more trust and more credibility way quicker than just having audio only. But not only that, a lot of new shows are being discovered on platforms like YouTube, for example. And that's how a lot of people are finding out about audio-based shows is from the video content, from the search that they're putting through the video platforms. So I'm not going to go into all of the equipment that you need to use. I have other videos that you can take a look at for that because I have other episodes and other videos that dive into that specifically. But you just want to consider that if you are going to start up your video, you want to make sure that you have a clear camera, you have a good mic, and that you have good lighting. And you can also consider, but this is not something that I do for this show, shooting with different dynamic angles. So you can have 2 or 3 different cameras going, but you want to make sure that you're always layering in different graphics, things that are going to be attention grabbing. And think about the storyline that you're creating through your video content. I know we don't always focus a lot on the storyline, if you will, when it comes to podcasting and content creation, but this is really how people follow you along for the ride. This is how you continue to keep them engaged in the content that you're sharing. If the story makes sense, people will follow through to the end. So you want to think about how can you continue to increase your engagement and how can you help people stick around until the end? What are you sharing and how is it going to answer the questions that they have? Thinking about your camera, your equipment, but then more than that, thinking about the structure of the actual video and how you're keeping people engaged for a longer period of time is super key. The next thing you want to think about is mastering your short and long form content. Both work. Contrary to what other people might tell you, longer form video still actually does work. It just matters on how the video is composed and how, again, it's answering the question that people have. So you want to master the longer form content and master the shorter form content because both of these together are going to give you some really epic results. First, start with your short form content, hooking your audience in fast. I want you to take a look at the content that you're creating and does your content currently do that right now? Are you starting your content off with a hook that draws people in immediately? The short form content is like quick hits where people get a little snippet of what you're sharing and what you're all about. The magic too is in your longer form content. It continues to build trust and it deepens relationships and allows people to experience the content in a really significant way. They get a full answer to what they're looking for. They get to be entertained in a deeper way. Having those longer videos does strengthen relationships in that way, and it also increases your watch time. The longer that you can keep people on your videos for, the better it's going to be for you in the long term. And also repurposing your content, right? So you can take your longer videos, chop them into smaller, shorter clips that you can use on YouTube Shorts, as TikToks, as Reels, and then going one step further than that, you can actually clip out a smaller segment, like 2 to 3 minutes, and put that on your channel as well. Step 3 is optimizing for discoverability and SEO. We hear the term SEO all the time, but really what we're talking about here is what are the keywords that you're using in your titles, your descriptions, and your tags, and how do those help you rank? Make sure that you have timestamps in your episode notes to help you with that accessibility and engagement. And another thing that people are starting to do that I'm seeing more and more of is optimizing thumbnails. So making sure that your thumbnails are bold, that they're clear, and that they stop the scroll, because that's exactly what you want to do to help people convert onto your video. Next, we're going to talk about your strategy. So I really want you to think about the content that you're creating and what is the strategy behind it. Make sure your videos are starting off with a hook right off the bat. You want to nail your first 30 seconds or less to grab people in right away. Then you want to also think about your frequency. How often are you publishing episodes? What is your cadence and what can your audience expect? Also make sure that you're taking the repurposed content and that you're sharing it in a strategic way on YouTube and on your other platforms to create more brand awareness around what you're doing. Don't just create the episodes and not create content and promote it. I have been that person. I've been there. I've done that. And I do that way more often than I would like to admit. So please make sure that you are taking the content that you're creating and that you're putting it on your other channels, on your other platforms, because people don't know about what you're doing unless you're actually vocal about it and you're actually sharing about it. So we think that, oh, I'm just going to create this podcast episode. I'm going to do some SEO, put some titles, have a description. But how are people discovering you? Where are they finding you? And how does that strategy work overall? You want to be in the exact places that your audience is already looking for you. And you want to be putting video content and putting your content in front of the people that need your message. So in order to do that, you need to know what your strategy is going to be. Think about your watch time. Think about your analytics. Think about your click-through rate. Think about which videos are performing the best and where and when and how. Which topics are people most interested in learning and hearing about from you? All of these things matter. They create the cohesiveness of your show, especially if you're trying to really dive deep into the strategy. Because here's the thing, people will consume more of your content when they know it's for them. So if you're paying attention to your videos that do the best and you create more content like that, people are naturally going to watch more of what you're creating. They're going to hit subscribe on your show and they're going to want to follow along for more because you're giving them exactly what they're asking for. People think that, having success in content is so difficult, and it can be difficult, but it's difficult when you're unclear about what you're talking about, and it's difficult when you're not sure in the strategy you're going to take to promote all of it. So please consider all of these different pieces here. The last thing that we're going to talk about today is staying ahead of trends and experimenting. And the reality is that success leaves clues, right? Obviously, content that is doing well and that is performing well is content that we're going to want to mimic and recreate ourselves. But the thing is, this content does so well because it's shifting and changing the way that people perceive the content, right? So don't negate and don't not do something just because other people are doing it. But I really want you to think about, how do you break through the noise and how do you do it in your own way? How do you continue to experiment and try something different, even if it's different from the norm? It's okay to do something different. It's okay to test and try new things. Just because someone else's content is going viral and is doing amazing based off of this one specific way of creating content, it doesn't actually necessarily mean your content is going to perform well when you do your content like that too, okay? Not every single type of content and strategy works for every person. So I really want you to get curious, to experiment, to try new things, to talk about different things, and to post different stuff, right? Try different ways to talk about your show. Create your clips from your podcast episode, but maybe also just create regular lifestyle content to reinforce the brand. So experiment and get curious. And then, of course, on the side of staying ahead of trends, make sure that you are paying attention to what is happening on the platform you're trying to grow on. If the platform is announcing new changes, adapt and get ahead of that. Don't be afraid to experiment with new video styles, new content creation styles, and overall new storylines. But also make sure that you're paying attention to those top creators and take a look at what they're doing and adapt their strategies that seem to be working really well for them. These are some of the things that you need to know when it comes to video content for 2025. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave me a comment or ask me a question. I am so happy to answer and to elaborate more. If this was helpful for you, be sure to follow along so you never miss stuff from us over here. Thank you for your time, and I am so grateful for you. I will see you on the next one.